Hello everyone, this is Mr. Paradise, picking Paradise and tweaking again on this American 1100 versus the Mako 427s. I noticed in my video earlier or prior, I didn't give us a close-up of the pins, so that's what I want to do today, is give us a close-up and discuss the pins, which I think is the biggest difference in these locks and why they pick so differently. What I've done was I've taken the American lock body and I have taken the American core, and I've taken all the springs and pins from the Mako 427 and I've put them in the American. So the only thing different about this is that it has all Mako 427 pins, and it has, well, that is not the key. That is, it has all Mako 427 pins and springs, and it picks exactly the same as if it were in the Mako 427 core. I wouldn't say exactly, but pretty darn close. So let's get a close-up of these pins here, and we'll start with the side-by-side comparison of the spools. So we can see that the Mako 427 seems to be a little bit more refined, in my opinion, and it seems like they've sanded down some edges, which might lead it to kind of overset a little bit easier, maybe. And then I took my micrometer and I measured the distance of the inside here, and there's actually a considerable amount of difference. This one I think mic'd at 0.91 and this one mic'd at 1.7. Now the other, we'll go ahead and pull up the serrated pins, which is a huge difference. There they are. So look at the depth difference on the serrations. It's pretty significant, and I think that is why the American would get small little clicks, and I also think that the spring tension is a little bit of a difference. But man, the serrations are so clean and so deep on the Mako 427, and I believe that allows that core to kind of get stuck and make it feel a little bit more firm, whereas the American has the lighter serrated pins, and they just kind of click by pretty quickly and don't get hung up as much. Also to note that the spools on all the Americans, I haven't seen a standard spool without the serrated, the serrations in an American, and I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. I would generally think that's probably a good thing, but they're so light that I think that the Mako 427 spool will trick you sometimes and then make you overset, especially when you have a spool below or above a serrated key pin, which we'll get a close-up of now. Side-by-side key pins. The colored one is now if we look at that, I guess the serrations are pretty damn similar. A little bit thinner on the Mako 427 one, a little bit wider on the American, and the depth's about the same. However, what I have done also is I have taken and picked these guys back to back just to kind of see the differences, and I'm still saying that a little bit heavier tension on the Mako 427s seems to help. It does seem to take me a little bit longer to get through them than the American 1100s. I tend to feel a little bit more pressure when the pin needs to be set, and the American 1100s, I will actually push the pin up, and once the pin kind of feels tight and the core moves just straight up and down, not giving me any kind of counter rotation or any kind of movement in rotation at all, then that tells me that the pin's set. Versus the Mako, if the pin feels tight at all, it needs to be set. It's not set yet. And then when I do set the pins on the Mako 427s, you can feel the pin is definitely more rattly. So I don't know if there's a little bit more weight in the pins or a little bit more room to be moving around in the core. As far as diameters, they did mic about the same. The Mako seemed a little bit thinner, but it was only a couple of like 0.002 or something. So there's no real difference there. What I do plan on doing is taking just the pins and putting them in the American and the American pins into the Mako, and not changing the springs, so we can see if the springs make a difference at all in the picking. But I think it's strictly the pins, and I think that is about it. So hopefully I'll get back with you guys later today after I do that, and I'll give you tips and comments on picking them. And I'm just going to say that I think it's just the pin difference, and that's about it. I mean, the lock body I described before and said that it is a little bit nicer, a little bit heavier. I did notice that the screw that holds underneath the shackle that holds the body in place, or holds the kick cylinder in there, I did strip one on the Mako. I've never stripped one on an American 1100 before. I don't know if it was just not threaded right or what, but anyway. So the main thing for me is the picking and seeing what's the big difference, and I think it's just the pins. We'll see if the springs have anything else to do with it. And thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll keep you updated.